Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Now that it is June, now that we are approaching the mid-year part of the year, it is time to do another one of my biannual reading journal flip-throughs. I love to do reading journal flip-throughs at the end of the year, but I think it's also really nice to do a mid-year one, kind of check in to see how my spreads are doing, the books that I've been reading throughout the year so far, and kind of what's left to fill out, do just a little bit of a mid-year check-in. Today we're going to flip through my reading journals. I do have two that I've been actively using for the past couple of months. This one is the reading journal that I started, I think around the summertime of last year. When the new year came around, I had about half of the pages left, so I just decided to put all of my New Year spreads into this journal and kind of just continue on using this one. It did end up filling up though. I did a lot of like beginning of the year spreads, which you'll see. So in March, I started my second reading journal for the year. This is the one that I have been using for the past couple of months. That is kind of just why I have two. They're a bit of a continuation from 2024, but I really don't mind using two. It's honestly not that inconvenient. Both of these reading journals are from Notebook Therapy. I'll link them down below if you're interested. But yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and flip through these today. I'll show you how my spreads are looking so far this year, how they're looking somewhat like half completed. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the spreads. I'll also link down below some videos and playlists for some other reading journal related videos that I've done so far this year. But I think that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and get right on into the reading journal 2025 mid-year flip through. Okay, let's go ahead and start with this journal, the journal that I set up all of my beginning of the year 2025 spreads in. So here is the beginning of all of my yearly spreads, starting out on this side with a little cover page that just has a little quote about reading. I wanted these beginning of the year spreads to be very kind of dainty and light and simple. I used some very like light pastel-y washi tapes and this scrapbook paper here, and overall I really love how it turned out. On the side we have my first actual spread, which is my numbered reading log. So every time I read a book, I color one in. I added 54 spaces because my official Goodreads reading goal was 52 books, and I do think I'm going to surpass that. If that's the case, I guess I can always add on like another spread later on in the journal. This also helps me keep track of how I read a book because each color correlates to whether I read it physically, audiobook, or Kindle, that sort of thing. The next spread is my reading log. This is like my master reading log, I call it. It's a 2-page spread. I don't know if I'm going to need all of the space, but I didn't want to run out, and this just keeps track of basically all of the data for all the books that I read. This is, I guess, my most accurate and up-to-date place to keep track of all of my reads. I just think it's really helpful and really interesting. I feel like a lot of my spreads are a little bit unnecessary, maybe a little bit redundant, but this spread I just find really, really useful, and I also keep like a smaller version of it for all of my monthly setups, which you'll see later. I just keep track of the book, the author, the genre. It's based off of colors. This pink is fantasy, yellow is general fiction, this kind of blue color is mystery thriller, and those are the only 3 different genres that I've read so far this year. I also like to keep track of the date that I finished the book and then my star rating. I'm not the biggest like rater, I think. I don't always, I guess, think of books that way, so I'm not sure if all these are necessarily accurate, and I do like to highlight my 5-star reads as well. Next we have definitely my absolute favorite spread in the entire journal, which is my bookshelf spread. This is inspired, of course, by Mandy Journals on Instagram. She has done one of these every single year, and I've just been so inspired. I made one last year, and it was just my favorite thing. I had so much fun with it, and I just think it looks so pretty, and one of those things that's really fun to see it progressively fill out throughout the year. I really love so far the colors that I've been going with. Very like lighter pastel, maybe some cool tones as well, and I think it adds to that kind of starry, whimsical feel to it. So I absolutely love this. I think I added maybe, I want to say like 90-ish book spaces. Obviously we'll see if all of them are filled out. Every time I read a book, I just color in one of these spaces and then write the title of the book, and then the color that I color it in is based off of the month that I read it. So it's just interesting to see like all these blue books are the ones that I read in January and so on, and I just really like that. I think it, you know, adds some color to it. Next we have my series tracker. The first one, I do have another series tracker in my next journal since, as you can see, I ran out of space. You'll see later that I have a ton of Dutch door type spreads, and I feel like this is one that I probably should have done a Dutch door type spread. I just didn't think of it, I guess. So these are all the series, or not all of them, but some of the series that I'm currently in the middle of. The Mortal Instruments series, Assistant to the Villain, The Scholomance, Fair Folk, Emily Wilde, The Crimson Moth, Six of Crows, The Legendborn Cycle, Wicked Games, A Study in Drowning, Love's Academic, Belladonna, Sisters of Salt, and Graceling. Some of these I have already completed, like the Emily Wilde series and the Six of Crows duology. A lot of these series are ongoing, which is kind of what the star means. The star means that the sequel is coming out at some point in the year, so like the third book in the Legendborn cycle, it's not the final book in the series, but it's the most up-to-date recent one, and I did read that one, so I'm kind of all up to date with that. I like to keep track of series that are all complete, but also ones that will soon be complete, and the star just kind of helps with that. This is definitely one of my favorite spreads too. I don't know, I love reading series, and it's really fun to kind of see it and keep track of it this way. Next we have my new releases. This is another one of my favorites just because it's so satisfying to actually fill out. I wrote down some of my most anticipated new releases, and basically every time I read one of them, I use one of these little book covers here to stick it onto the space, and it's just so fun. It's so satisfying. I feel like I haven't actually been reading a whole lot of these new releases. Well, obviously a lot of them aren't out yet. A lot of these are coming out in the second part of the year, but it is just really, really satisfying, and I've added on more that I've been intrigued by, so that's kind of what this is for. Some of it, like for example, Holy Terrors, I still have to add in, and if there's any more new releases that I'm super excited about, then I can go ahead and add them here, and then when I read them, stick it on. And I love how this turned out as well. Next we have my book spot page. I really like the look of this one. It's also a little Dutch door. I've kind of just moved on to the second section. I feel like I was definitely buying a lot of books at the beginning of the year, and that's kind of slowed down a little bit, so I feel like this might be maybe like the perfect amount of room that I need for this year, hopefully. I feel like I have read a decent amount of these, but there are definitely still a lot that I'm hoping to get to soon. These are also only for books that I buy to add to my TBR, if that makes sense. Like if I already read the book from the library or something and then I buy it, I won't add it to this spread. Next we have my favorites by month. This is still one of my favorite spreads as well. I feel like I've been saying that for every spread. So basically every single month I just pick my favorite book that I read and add it to the list. And so far I'm obsessed with how this is looking. Definitely have read some really great books this year. We have Crooked Kingdom for January, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue for February. This is my favorite book of the year so far. Oathbound for March, Little Thieves for April, and The Resurrectionist for May. Then we have my TBR for the year. This is something that I think I'm actually going to switch up a little bit and do a bit of a revised mid-year version, and I'll definitely include that in a video because there's some of these books I kind of want to switch out a little bit. Like one of them was a DNF, The Lost Story. Some of them I've actually unhauled, and I want to kind of switch a few things up when it comes to this list, but there are definitely still most of them that I'm really hoping to get to this year. This is just a way to keep track of all the books with a little cover, which I think is really cute, but then this is just a fun way to kind of color it in every time I read one of the books. I am definitely a little bit behind schedule, but I have read a couple of them, and I feel like, yeah, all the ones that I've read, I've really enjoyed so far, so I am excited to continue this list. So far it's had a pretty good enjoyment rate, except for The Lost Story, which was a DNF. This was a little bit of a failed physical TBR page, so I have a revised version in my next journal. Then we have a very incomplete, not very referenced spread, which is my rereads. I've done 2 rereads this year, and I would like to do more. I do plan to do more. Not the biggest fan of this spread, but it's just kind of here. And now we're moving on to my monthly setups, starting out with January. I think this is the only one I didn't put in a video. Actually, maybe I did put this one in a video. Honestly, I don't remember. But I feel like the rest of the monthly spreads follow a similar format. I like to pick a little bit of a theme with different washi tapes, papers, and stickers. I like to keep track of my TBR. January is the only month that I read all 3 books, but that's okay. And then this is my reading log. January is also the month that I read the most books, which was 9. I love this theme too. I think it turned out very pretty and very whimsical and very perfect for winter. And then I have my January reads page. Oh, I also love how this turned out. Read some very magical and like wintry books in January. So these are pretty much the same spreads that I have every month. TBR, reading log, and books read. And Then I just have some fun little spreads. I did a little revised winter TBR, which I was pretty successful with, and then I did a trip to Europe at the beginning of the year, and I just wanted to keep track of all the books that I got and also whether I've read them and the store that I bought them from, so that was just a fun little spread. Then I have my books around the world. This was one of my favorite spreads that I did last year, and it looks pretty empty right now, but it is a cool concept. So this is basically every time I read a book that is either set in a country or it's like heavily inspired by maybe like the mythology of the country. I think for these though, all of them have just been set in the country, and I feel like I haven't been reading a whole lot of different books. I mean, I do read lots of fantasy, and those aren't, you know, set on Earth a lot of the time. But yeah, definitely would like to read books set in more diverse parts of the world. I feel like that would be a good goal. But we have a couple countries in here. I just write down here the book and the country, and then I get to color it in, which is just so fun. I love coloring in little maps and that sort of thing. And I think this spread turned out really pretty too. It's just a little bit empty right now. This was another failed physical TBR page, so we'll just ignore that. And then we have my Hall of Fame. This is another one of my favorite spreads just because it has my favorite books that I've been reading this year. So this is basically like 4.5 and above, I'm pretty sure. So all of these books I've rated very, very highly. Some of them are absolute favorites. 2 of them are rereads. I am including rereads on this list. And yeah, I've loved all of these books. This is a very accurate list, and it makes me so happy to look at. Then we have my February spread, strawberry theme. I just think it's very fun, very colorful. I read 2 out of the 3 books on my February TBR, 6 books total. I was a little bit in a reading slump in February, I think. That being said, I did read 2 absolute favorite books, so very happy about that. Then I think this is my first book spread that I did, my first like book review page for, of course, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I honestly wasn't obsessed with this page when I first did it, but now kind of looking back on it, I do really, really like it. It's a little bit more of like a collage style. This is my favorite book that I've read this year, so of course I had to make a spread for it. I just included some pictures from Pinterest, some little stickers that I had, and overall I think it turned out really cute and kind of matches the theme of the book. And that is actually it for this first journal, so we can go ahead and move on to the next one. This pretty much ended at the end of February, so in the next journal we go right on into March. I just did a little cover page. I wanted to do like a little journal entry for a new journal, and I never got around to it. I kind of just went straight into this journal. I didn't really set anything up at the beginning. So the first spread is my March spread. I also really love how this one turned out. I read 8 books in March, 2 out of the 3 on my TBR. It looks like I bought a lot of books in March. And then I have all the books that I read. Definitely a very fun reading month, I think. This is my official physical TBR spread, and I really like it. It works out really well. These are all the books that I carried over into 2025 on my physical TBR. Definitely wanted to be a little bit more of like a priority, so I made the little shelves so that I could color them in every time that I read them. And then I have 2 different columns, a little Dutch door here for all the books that I brought into 2025, and then all the ones that I've hauled. And obviously every time I read it, I can highlight it and cross it off. And then the one book that I unhauled is The Lost Story because I just did not like it, so I crossed that one out. And then this is just a way for me to keep track of the current books, or the current number of books on my physical TBR. Every time I buy a book, I add a little box. Every time I read one, I color it in. And that is pretty much it for this page. I do really like this spread. I feel like the functionality of it works really well. Then we have my second book spread. I love this one. Definitely my favorite that I've made this year. This was just so much fun. I basically just like copied the illustration from the cover, and I love how it turned out. This is obviously for the 3rd Emily Wilde book, which was just one of my favorite books that I've read this year, one of my favorite series. Then I have my spread for Vicious and Vengeful. I love the lettering. I don't love the spread overall. I guess I never really finished it. I kind of lost steam with it a little bit, but I think it does work, and I do really like the quotes from this series. Then we have my spring TBR, a very pretty spread. We won't talk about how unsuccessful I was. Let's just move right along. This is my second series tracker. It's just a continuation. I guess I did a little butterfly theme. I think it looks cute. I actually realized that this is a trilogy and the 3rd one is coming out maybe next year. I thought it was a duology, but I did read both of those. This is the Howl series. I've read 1 out of the 3. Spark of the Everflame, I've read 1. The Shades of Magic, I've read the first 2. And the Little Thieves, I did end up reading all 3 of them. So that's it for the series tracker. Another book review spread, I was trying to kind of backlog a little bit and do some for the earlier books that I read in the year. This one's for Howl's Moving Castle. I did a little bit of like a vision board kind of for it, and I love this one as well. I love the movie, and it was fun to be able to read the book and then make a cute spread for it. Now we have my April page. This is a little bit more of like a less structured kind of dashboard style, and I really like how this looks as well. I read one of the books on my April TBR, 7 books total. And here are all the books that I read. I also did a little I tried to do like a calendar type thing, and it didn't really, I didn't stick with it too much, but it was kind of fun to track at the beginning of the month. Then I did a little author backlist spread inspired by Anna Bruns, and I definitely want to make more of these, but V.E. Schwab is an author that I've been getting into this year, and I just wanted to keep track of these books, and I'll definitely add her newest release down here. I feel like there's the perfect space for it. As of right now, I've read The Vicious, Vengeful, Addie LaRue, and then the first 2 in the Shades of Magic, and I would love to get to a whole lot more of them this year. Then we have just a random little wish list TBR page, and then I have the next few spreads are some more book review pages. I did a whole video setting these up if you want to see how the process of how I did that. This is a spread I made for Green Teeth by Molly O'Neill, and again I love how this spread turned out. And then next is for Oathbound, one of my favorite books I've read this year. And then finally I have my Morisaki Bookshop duology page, which I don't love, I'm not obsessed with this spread, but I think it's cute and it works for the series. And now we're on to my May spread. This is one of my favorites. I just feel like the washi tape is really pretty and it kind of goes with the colors. And I just love how spring it is. I, again, read one of the books on my TBR, 5 books total. This is another book review page you guys would have seen in one of my last videos for The Resurrectionist, which was my favorite book that I read in May. Then I have my little May reading wrap up, which was only 1 page this month, and I have a bit of an extra page here that I'm not sure what I'll put here, but I'll figure something out for that. Then we have my June setup, which is very fun, very light. It's only the beginning of June as I'm filming this, so obviously it's not all filled out just yet. I left an empty page for my June wrap up, and then the next spread is my summer TBR, which I also made a recent video for. And that is actually the last spread in my journal. Anyway though, that is my completed flip through for my 2025 reading journals so far. I love how all the spreads are looking this year. A good mix of experimenting with new things and then just kind of keeping up with the spreads that work really well for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'm excited to do another check-in at the end of the year and see how all these spreads look then. But that is pretty much it for this video, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!